Heather here with Belle's Library. Welcome back if you've been here before. Otherwise, welcome if you are new. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I would do it right now before you forget. Today, we are going to be talking about some of my all-time favorite reads that I've had so far this year. So, it is the middle of May. We're about almost, well, not almost. We are over a third of the way into the year by a little bit here. And so I've read 22 books so far this year. And today I'm going to be talking about my top 4 books. They are the only ones I've given 5 stars so far this year. And just when I was looking through the books I've read, they're the 4 that like stood out. Like, yes, I super love these ones, and they're the ones that I want to be talking about. So I decided that I wanted to do this video from my 4th favorite of the year so far up to my number 1 favorite so far this year. This may end up changing by the end of the year. Maybe all of these will be in my favorites, maybe none of them, maybe they'll change places around. A couple of these books I did just recently read, and that's the main reason I'm not totally sure if they're going to end up staying in these spots, because when a book is like fresh, I've just read it and I really loved it, I think it's like the best thing in the world. And then sometimes when I sit on it a little bit, I'll be like, okay, well, I actually did like this one a little bit more, or maybe I didn't like this as much. So bear that in mind a little bit here, but these are the top 4 so far this year. So starting at number 4, I have Anna Dressed in Blood. I read this one last month in April, right at kind of the end of the month, and I really enjoyed it. It sucked me in, and I just felt like the tempo was so good throughout the whole story. I just demolished this book in like 2 days. I had a little bit of like thriller aspect to it. I didn't really want to walk down my dark hallway at one point, and then just it had some twists and turns that I just wasn't really expecting, but it just kept me like going through the whole book. There's just this really good like flow, and it was very intriguing. So that is my number 4. Number 3, let's see. Oh yes. Okay, so number 3 I just read, finished up about a week ago. I literally started this book at 7 o'clock at night and thought I was just starting it, but no, I had to finish it. I was done with it at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I had to get through it. So this one is Christina Lauren's book, Love in Other Words. This was such a cute story. It's about, it's about Macy and Elliot, and they meet when they are young teenagers. I think they're like 12 or 13, when Macy's dad buys them a summer home, or a vacation home, I guess, because they go on the weekends and stuff throughout the school year, and then they spend a lot of their summer there. And she meets Elliot, who lives in the house next door, and they bond over their love of books, and they just spend like as much time as possible together. And when they're apart, they email and that kind of thing. And so they kind of grow in this huge friendship when they're kids, and then when they're like 17, 18, they're going to graduate, they fall in love, and on on New Year's Eve of their senior year, Elliot tells Macy that he loves her and that he wants to be with her and all this stuff, but some other events happen, and you don't find out about that until kind of the end of the book, and they stop talking after that night. And then I think it's like 11 years later, they run back into each other after having not talked for all of that time, and kind of strike things back up. But Macy's engaged at the time, Elliot has a new girlfriend, but they just can't like deny their attraction and just still love for each other because they spent so many years together. And so you see both. Back then, you're seeing kind of how they became friends and everything from when they're younger, and then you see them reconnecting as they're older. It's the cutest second chance at love kind of romance, and I just devoured this book. It was truly adorable. Having a little coffee today. This week has been a little rough. I've been very tired and just unmotivated, and it's my last week of studying before my finals next week, and I'm struggling a little to keep it together, but I'm feeling a little better today. This is only my second cup of coffee, which is normal for me. Usually, well, the last few days I've been so tired, I've been on like 3 and 4 cups, and it's been a little exhausting. Oh, hold on, little munchkin. All right, eventually I'm not going to have a bunch of interruptions and distractions from the little munchkin, but at this time it's just happening. I actually was just wondering today about what's going to be happening with everything in the fall, if she will be actually able to start kindergarten like normal, or how that's all going to work. I'm hoping so. It seems like things are opening up, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, so let's move on to my number 2 favorite book of the year. I actually just finished this last night. An Ember in the Ashes. I wasn't intending on reading this month, but it's been just one that's like been calling to me, like, you need to read this. You've been hearing a lot about it. There's just something that just really was intriguing me about it. And so I got it through Libby, and it took me, I don't know, like 3 or 4 days to finish it off. But not because I didn't want to read, but because I was making myself not read because I needed to study. And it was just really, it was a good book. It had so many different dynamics. The characters were really like, what's the word I want to say? They were really dynamic. And I just really enjoyed like all the different relationships that were being built in the story, and the buildup was just really good, and you just felt that. And it's a fantasy book, so a lot of times, you know, fantasy and that kind of book is gonna focus more on the action and that kind of thing, but this one did have a smidge of romance. It was really not like anything in your face, but you just had that little bit kind of behind the scenes, which was nice to just have that mixed in. But I just really enjoyed the character development in this book. So if you guys haven't heard about this one, brief synopsis. Let's see. An Ember in the Ashes is about this girl, Laya. I think that's how you say her name. I could be saying it wrong. I should probably look into that. But her brother is taken into a interrogation prison type deal, and her grandparents are killed in front of her, and she's part of the scholar race, which has been oppressed. And so she goes to find the resistance in order to help try and save her brother, who is the last person in her family that hasn't been killed. And she ends up infiltrating into the academy where they like train all the guards and everything that kind of oversee a lot of the justice in this world, I guess you could say. But she infiltrates as a resistant spy and as a slave to the commandant, and she's trying to find out information about these trials that are being put on to find the next emperor. And then you also are seeing Elias, his point of view, and he is one of the aspirants that is vying to become the emperor. He doesn't really want the power, and he's struggling with some of his emotions around everything. You're seeing him go through all these trials as well, and then their relationship kind of together. But Laya's got another relationship going on with somebody back in the resistance and is working with some people there. And then Elias has his best friend that he's trained with for years and years and years, and they have a huge relationship that you're building on. There's just a lot of like interconnected relationships going on, and there's so much intrigue, and wanted to read this book all day if I could, and I can't wait to get into the second one, but I am, because I don't want to like burn myself out on the series, so I'm gonna give it a break for a little bit. So I'm like really excited to get into the next one, and I have that kind of real desire to. And I'm hoping, I know the fourth book in the series, the final one, is coming out at the end of this year, so I'm gonna try and read all 3 of the first ones, and then when the new one comes out, I'll be like ready for it. I'm really excited. Okay, so kind of a side tangent too. I definitely thought I rated a lot more books on the high end. Like, I feel like this year I've enjoyed almost all the books that I've read. I've only given out 1 2-star, and I thought I gave more 5 stars, I guess. But when I went back and looked, these were my only 4 5 stars so far this year, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I've probably given mostly 4 stars, I would say. So I've had a pretty good reading year, and I don't know if that's just because I'm choosing the right books or I just really enjoy every book, but these were definitely my 4 favorites. So my absolute number 1 favorite. Okay. My absolute favorite number 1 read of the year. This one actually is one of the first ones I read of the year. I think I read it in January, maybe February, but it is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you haven't read this book, go and read it. It's amazing. Everybody who reads it almost absolutely loves it. So, but this one follows a starlet. I want to say she was like a major star in like the 50s or 60s. I don't 100% remember, but she, throughout her career, had 7 different husbands, and so we're following this reporter that's going to basically get a memoir of her life, and she's telling it through the different spans of these different 7 husbands, and telling the reporter about her life. And this is a big deal because everybody would love to have this exclusive from Evelyn Hugo, and the reporter who's doing it, she specifically said, this is the only one I'm doing it with, and we don't know why, because this girl is kind of on the newbie side of reporting. She doesn't have like a ton of experience, so everybody's like, how do you want her to do it? And she's offering the girl, she doesn't want her to do it through the newspaper she works with. She's like, I want you to make a book about my life and do all this stuff, and you know, you can do just a little article for the paper you work with, because otherwise they're going to be like, why are we sending you to do this? Why are we paying you? And the girl just doesn't fully understand, but you find out at the end everything, and it is like a roller coaster at the end. Like, you build up, you learn so much about Evelyn Hugo, and she is not perfect, and I love that. She has these different flaws, and you're learning a little bit about the reporter as well. You kind of go home with her at night and learn about some of her thoughts, and you just go through this whole lifespan of Evelyn Hugo, and then the end's just like twist, 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 and I just remember bawling. I was bawling for a good like couple hours at the end of this book while I was reading it. Like, I was just sobbing. It was an emotional ride. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. My number 1 of the my number 1 read of the year, absolutely 100%. So if you haven't read that one, I definitely would. But all 4 of these books I highly recommend. The only one I have physically so far is Love and Other Words by Christine Lauren, but all of these books I really love to end up owning, and will be thinking about acquiring here soon. There's just a million books that I would absolutely love to own, so we will see how that all goes. I hope you guys really liked this video. Please let me know what some of your favorite reads of the year are so far, or maybe just your favorite reads in general, down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys are having a really, really good day, and I will talk to you guys on Wednesday. Bye!